Have you ever listened to a politician's speech and felt that something was not quite right? Have you ever wondered if the information flashing across your television screen or scrolling down your mobile phone feed is the complete, unvarnished truth? In today's world, where every leader claims to speak for the people, it is a crucial question to ask. We are living in an era where truth is often treated not as a sacred principle, but as a flexible commodity. It can be bent, twisted, and sometimes completely fabricated to serve a specific agenda. This is not a new phenomenon, but the speed and scale at which it happens today are unprecedented, leaving many citizens feeling lost in a fog of uncertainty and doubt. The challenge for ordinary people is immense. We are expected to make informed decisions about our future, our country, and our leaders. But the very foundation of that decision-making process, reliable information, is constantly under attack. Political narratives are carefully constructed, designed not just to inform, but to persuade, to provoke, and to polarize. They appeal to our deepest hopes and our darkest fears, often bypassing our rational minds entirely. When a leader confidently dismisses a damaging news report as fake news, are they telling the truth, or are they simply using a clever tactic to evade accountability? This strategy has a name: the liar's dividend. It's a world where even genuine evidence can be discredited, creating a dividend of doubt that benefits the powerful. This essay is an attempt to pull back the curtain on this complex and often hidden world. We will explore the deliberate strategies politicians employ to mislead the public and manipulate the media. We will examine how social media platforms have become powerful engines for making these falsehoods go viral, amplifying them to millions in a matter of minutes. More importantly, we will look at the real-world impact of these tactics on the minds of citizens, on the health of our democracy, and on the very fabric of our society. This is not merely an academic exercise. It is a journey into the mechanics of modern power and a guide for how we as citizens can begin to reclaim the truth. The journey begins with understanding that political lies are not random acts of dishonesty. They are planned, strategic, and executed with precision. From playing with our emotions to leveraging the influence of media owners, the toolkit of deception is vast. We will also shine a light on the brave work of journalists who fight to expose these hidden dealings and the fact-checking organizations that meticulously sift through claims to separate fact from fiction. By the end, the goal is not to leave you feeling cynical or powerless, but to equip you with the knowledge and the tools to see through the games being played, to ask the right questions, and ultimately, to make choices based on clarity rather than confusion. Politics has always had a complicated relationship with the truth, but what we are witnessing today is the industrialization of deception. Politicians regularly employ a spectrum of misleading communication, from outright lies to more subtle forms of manipulation. These include strategic ambiguity, where statements are deliberately vague to allow for multiple interpretations, and the use of partial truths, where a small factual detail is used to build a larger, misleading narrative. This is not simple dishonesty. It is a calculated performance designed to achieve specific goals, to rally supporters, to demonize opponents, to evade responsibility for failures, and most importantly, to hold on to power. These deceptions are hidden because admitting to them would shatter the carefully crafted image of a leader who is trustworthy and working for the public good. One of the most potent modern tactics is what has been termed the liar's dividend. This is a truly cynical strategy. When a politician is confronted with genuine evidence-based reporting that exposes a scandal or a lie, they simply declare the report to be fake news or a deep fake conspiracy. By preemptively sowing widespread doubt about the credibility of all information, they create an environment where it becomes difficult for the public to distinguish between what is real and what is fabricated. This allows the politician to escape accountability. Their most ardent supporters, already primed to distrust the media, will readily accept the denial, and the politician's base of support can even strengthen in the face of what is perceived as an unfair attack. This strategy is particularly effective against text-based scandals or reports that require careful reading and analysis. A study from May 2025 revealed that for many politicians, aggressively denying a true story and labeling it as misinformation is a more beneficial strategy than remaining silent or apologizing. It turns a moment of weakness into a show of strength, rallying their base against a common enemy, which is often painted as a corrupt and biased media. However, the same study noted that this tactic is significantly less effective when the evidence is clear and undeniable, such as a video recording. This is why controlling the narrative before any evidence can gain traction has become a central obsession of modern political campaigns. The ultimate aim of this strategic dishonesty is to control the national conversation. By flooding the information ecosystem with noise, confusion, and competing claims, the powerful make it exhausting for the average citizen to keep up. When people feel overwhelmed, they are more likely to disengage from politics altogether or retreat into the comfort of their pre-existing beliefs. This serves the interests of those who benefit from a passive and divided populace. The strategic lie is not just about deceiving people on a single issue. It is about eroding the very foundation of shared reality, making constructive public discourse nearly impossible, and consolidating power in the hands of those who are most willing to manipulate it. If strategic deception is the weapon, then social media is the delivery system, a viral superhighway that can transport a lie around the world in the blink of an eye. Platforms like X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok have fundamentally changed the landscape of political communication. Their business models are built on engagement, keeping users on their platforms for as long as possible. The algorithms that power these sites are designed to identify and promote content that generates strong emotional reactions, anger, outrage, fear, or excitement. Unfortunately, sensational falsehoods and polarizing content often generate far more engagement than nuanced, factual reporting. This creates a fertile ground for political misinformation to thrive and spread at a terrifying pace. The mechanics of this spread are driven by a combination of technology and human psychology. Viral sharing mechanisms encourage users to instantly pass on content without critical evaluation. A provocative headline or a shocking image can be shared with thousands of followers in a single click. Echo chambers and filter bubbles, created by algorithms showing us more of what we already like and believe, reinforce our biases and make us more susceptible to misinformation that confirms them. Furthermore, the system is often manipulated by coordinated networks of bots, automated accounts that can amplify a specific message, create the illusion of widespread support for a false narrative, and drown out dissenting voices, making it appear as if a lie is a popular truth. Among the major platforms, some are more potent amplifiers of political falsehoods than others. Research has consistently identified X and TikTok as particularly powerful engines for algorithmic amplification. Their design and user dynamics prioritize speed and virality, which often comes at the expense of accuracy. Facebook, while also a significant vector for misinformation, has been found in some studies to have a slightly lower rate of algorithmic amplification compared to its rivals. Instagram, being more visually focused, tends to contribute to a lesser extent, though it is by no means immune. Understanding which platforms are the most potent amplifiers helps us see where the biggest battles for truth are being fought and lost every day. The problem is compounded by a recent shift in platform policies. As of 2024 and 2025, major companies like Meta have scaled back their fact-checking partnerships and enforcement mechanisms. The new owner of X has at times used the platform to personally promote conspiracy theories, dismantling many of the safeguards that were previously in place. This institutional retreat from responsibility means that the burden of verification has been shifted almost entirely onto the individual user, who is ill-equipped to fight a tidal wave of algorithmically boosted deception. The digital public square is becoming less of a forum for debate and more of a battleground for information warfare, with citizens caught in the crossfire. Beyond the cold logic of algorithms and strategic messaging lies a much more primal force in politics: emotion. Politicians have long understood that the most effective way to move a population is not through reasoned argument, but through powerful emotional appeals. They intentionally tap into feelings of fear, anger, resentment, and prejudice to divide society and solidify their own support. By creating an us versus them narrative, they can forge a strong sense of group identity among their followers, united against a common enemy. This enemy could be another political party, a minority community, a neighboring country, or even abstract concepts like the elite or the establishment. Emotional polarization is a potent tool for control. This strategy works by short-circuiting our capacity for critical thinking. When we are angry or afraid, our brains are hardwired to react quickly and defensively. We are less likely to pause, question the source of our information, or consider alternative viewpoints. A political message that stokes our outrage feels instinctively true, because it validates the strong emotion we are experiencing. This creates a vicious cycle. The politicians' inflammatory rhetoric makes us angry, and that anger makes us more receptive to their next inflammatory message. This is how political polarization deepens, moving from a simple disagreement over policy to a visceral dislike or even hatred for those on the opposing side. Consider the language often used in political rallies or on social media. It is rarely calm and measured. Instead, it is filled with words designed to provoke betrayal, invasion, threat, corruption, disaster. These words are chosen for their emotional impact. They paint a picture of a world in crisis, where only a strong, decisive leader can save the day. By constantly manufacturing a sense of urgency and peril, politicians keep their supporters in a state of heightened emotional arousal, making them loyal, motivated, and willing to overlook transgressions or inconsistencies. The goal is to create a bond based not on policy, but on a shared emotional journey, a shared struggle against perceived enemies. Ultimately, this manipulation of emotion hollows out the core of democratic debate. A healthy democracy requires citizens who can engage with complex issues, weigh evidence, and find common ground. But when the political landscape becomes an emotional battlefield, this becomes impossible. Debate is replaced by denunciation, and compromise is seen as betrayal. Citizens are no longer participants in a shared project of governance, but are turned into soldiers in a cultural war. Recognizing when our emotions are being deliberately manipulated is the first and most critical step towards reclaiming our agency and demanding a more rational and respectful political discourse. Section 5. The shadow economy, corruption, cronyism, and hidden agendas. Behind the public-facing drama of political rhetoric and emotional appeals, there's this shadow economy of power. It's a place where deals are struck, favors are exchanged, and personal fortunes are made. Political corruption, in its simplest form, is the abuse of public office for private gain. Now, this isn't always as blatant as, a briefcase full of cash. It often operates in the gray areas of governance. We're talking about opaque government contracts awarded to friendly companies, policy changes that benefit specific corporate interests, or the appointment of unqualified loyalists to powerful positions. These actions, they're driven by personal greed and the desire to build a network of cronies who will ensure the politicians' continued influence and power. These hidden dealings are, by their very nature, designed to be kept from public view. Transparency is the enemy of corruption. A government contract awarded without a competitive bidding process to a company owned by a politician's relative is a classic example. The public is told that the decision was made in the national interest or for the sake of efficiency, but in reality, public money is being funneled into private pockets. Similarly, when environmental regulations are weakened after heavy lobbying from a polluting industry, the official justification might be economic growth, but the hidden agenda is to reward a powerful corporate donor. These actions directly harm the public interest, diverting resources and undermining fair competition. The role of media ownership becomes critically important in this context. When media outlets are owned by the same corporate conglomerates that benefit from these hidden deals, the chances of those deals being exposed are significantly reduced. The media owner's interests can align with the politicians, creating a symbiotic relationship where the politician provides favorable policies and the media owner provides favorable coverage or, just as importantly, a lack of critical coverage. This creates a powerful shield that protects corrupt activities from public scrutiny. The watchdogs who are supposed to be guarding the public trust are effectively muzzled, or in some cases, become willing participants in the deception. This ecosystem of corruption and cronyism has a corrosive effect on democracy. It fosters a deep sense of cynicism and distrust among the public, who come to believe that the entire system is rigged and that all politicians are self-serving. This can lead to political apathy, as people feel their vote makes no difference against such entrenched and powerful interests. It also means that public policy is not driven by the needs of the many, but by the greed of a few. Exposing this shadow economy is one of the most difficult but essential tasks in holding power to account and ensuring that government truly works for the people it claims to represent. In a world awash with strategic lies and hidden agendas, investigative journalism acts as a powerful disinfectant. The process of uncovering concealed political deals and corruption is painstaking, often dangerous, and requires a unique set of skills. It's honestly nothing like the fast-paced, superficial reporting that dominates the 24-hour news cycle. Journalists who delve into these stories, well, they must become part detective, part accountant, and part historian. One of the most fundamental techniques is to follow the money. By meticulously tracing the flow of funds through public records, company filings, and bank statements, reporters can uncover illicit payments, conflicts of interest, and networks of cronyism that politicians would prefer to keep hidden. Another crucial tool is the cultivation of inside sources. Many of the biggest scandals are broken not by finding a document, but by someone on the inside deciding to speak out. Building a relationship of trust with whistleblowers, people within government agencies or corporations who are troubled by wrongdoing, is a delicate and time-consuming process. These sources often risk their careers and personal safety to bring the truth to light. Journalists must protect their identities while verifying the information they provide, cross-referencing their claims with other sources and documentary evidence to build a case that is solid enough to publish and withstand the inevitable backlash and denials from those implicated. Legal tools like the Freedom of Information Act or FOIA are also indispensable in prying information from secretive government bodies. By filing specific and well-crafted FOIA requests, journalists can compel agencies to release internal documents, emails, and reports that can provide direct evidence of misconduct. However, governments often resist these requests, using exemptions, delays, and excessive fees to obstruct the process. An effective FOIA request must be narrowly focused, using precise keywords and date ranges to avoid being dismissed as too broad. It is a slow and often frustrating battle of attrition, but one that can yield incredible breakthroughs, providing the irrefutable proof needed to hold power accountable. Finally, the modern investigative journalist increasingly relies on data analysis and digital forensics. In an age of big data, reporters use specialized software to analyze vast datasets, such as government spending records, lobbying databases, or leaked documents, to identify patterns and anomalies that would be invisible to the naked eye. They can map out complex networks of shell companies, track the digital footprints of political operatives, and verify the authenticity of photos and videos. This combination of traditional shoe-leather reporting and cutting-edge technology allows journalists to piece together complex puzzles, exposing the truth that lies buried beneath layers of official denials and corporate secrecy. The news you receive is not delivered in a vacuum. It passes through a series of gates, and the people who own the media outlets are the ultimate gatekeepers. The ownership structure of a news organization has a profound impact on the stories it chooses to cover, the way it frames those stories, and the perspectives it chooses to exclude. In many countries, media ownership is becoming increasingly concentrated in the hands of a few powerful billionaires or corporations with vast business interests that extend far beyond journalism. This creates an inherent conflict of interest. A news channel owned by a conglomerate that relies on government contracts is unlikely to pursue aggressive investigations into that same government. We have seen clear examples of this influence across the globe. In the United States, the Sinclair Broadcast Group has been known to require its many local news stations to run centrally produced, conservative-leaning commentary, overriding local editorial independence and homogenizing the news for millions of viewers. In the UK and Australia, Rupert Murdoch's News Corp has long been criticized for using its newspapers and television channels to champion political candidates and policies that align with Murdoch's personal and business interests. In India, the acquisition of NDTV by a conglomerate led by one of the country's wealthiest industrialists raised significant concerns about the future of one of the few remaining critical voices in mainstream television news. This influence is not always exerted through direct, explicit commands from the owner. It often operates more subtly. Journalists and editors, aware of their owner's political leanings and business interests, may begin to self-censor. They might avoid pursuing stories that could embarrass the owner or their political allies, or they might frame stories in a way that is more favorable to the company's bottom line. This creates a chilling effect within the newsroom, gradually eroding journalistic integrity from the inside out. The result is a media landscape where a diversity of viewpoints shrinks, and the narrative presented to the public increasingly reflects the interests of a tiny, wealthy elite rather than the broader public interest. For citizens, this means that getting a balanced and complete picture of reality requires more effort than ever before. We can no longer passively consume news from a single trusted source. It is essential to be aware of who owns the media we consume and to understand their potential biases. The financial model of a news organization matters. Is it funded by advertising, subscriptions, a billionaire owner, or public funds? Each model creates different incentives and pressures. To be truly informed, a citizen must actively seek out a variety of sources, including independent, non-profit, and international news outlets, to piece together a more comprehensive and reliable version of the truth. In the face of a relentless onslaught of misinformation, fact-checking organizations have emerged as a crucial line of defense. Their work is not about expressing opinions, but about applying a rigorous, evidence-based methodology to verify the claims made by politicians and other public figures. The process begins with identifying a specific, verifiable claim. It cannot be a general statement of opinion like our country is the greatest, but must be a statement of fact, such as unemployment has decreased by 10% in the last year. Once a claim is selected, the fact-checker's real work begins, a meticulous hunt for primary evidence to either support or refute it. The investigation involves consulting a wide range of reliable sources. This could mean digging into official government statistics from the Office for National Statistics, reviewing scientific studies published in peer-reviewed journals, examining historical records, or interviewing impartial experts on the subject. The context of the claim is just as important as the raw data. A politician might use a technically accurate statistic, but present it in a misleading way. For example, they might cherry-pick a start date to make an economic trend look more favorable than it actually is. A good fact-check will not only verify the number, but also provide the missing context to reveal the full picture to the public. After gathering and analyzing all the evidence, the organization assigns a rating to the claim. These rating systems vary, but often use a simple, intuitive scale such as true, mostly true, half true, mostly false, and false. Some organizations use more memorable labels like PolitiFact's Pants on Fire for ridiculously false claims. This rating provides a clear, at-a-glance summary for the reader. The rating is always accompanied by a detailed article that lays out all the evidence, explains the reasoning behind the conclusion, and provides links to all the original sources. This transparency is vital, as it allows readers to check the work for themselves and builds trust in the fact-checking process. To cope with the sheer volume of misinformation, fact-checkers are increasingly turning to technology for help. They use digital tools, including natural language processing and large language models, to automatically scan the internet and social media to identify recurring false claims and track their spread. These tools can quickly match a new claim to one that has already been debunked, allowing fact-checkers to respond more quickly and efficiently. However, these automated systems are not a replacement for human judgment. The final analysis and rating are always conducted by a human journalist who can understand nuance, context, and the subtle ways in which language can be used to deceive. Living in this complex information environment can feel disempowering, but we are not helpless. As citizens, we can develop habits and skills to protect ourselves from manipulation and make more informed decisions. The first and most important step is to cultivate a healthy skepticism. This doesn't mean becoming a cynic who believes nothing. It means becoming a critical consumer of information. When you encounter a piece of content, especially one that provokes a strong emotional reaction, pause before you accept it or share it. Ask yourself some basic questions. Who is the source of this information? What is their agenda? Is there evidence to support this claim? A moment of reflection is a powerful antidote to impulsive sharing. Secondly, make an effort to diversify your media diet. If you only get your news from one television channel, one newspaper, or your algorithmically curated social media feed, you are living in an echo chamber. Actively seek out a variety of sources with different perspectives, including local, national, and international outlets. Pay attention to who owns the media you consume. Practice lateral reading. When you see a surprising claim from an unfamiliar source, open a new tab and search for what other credible sources are saying about that same topic. This simple habit can quickly expose a biased or false narrative by comparing it against a broader consensus of reliable reporting. Thirdly, learn to recognize the hallmarks of emotional manipulation and propaganda. Be wary of language that is overly simplistic, that paints the world in black and white, or that constantly seeks to create an us versus them dynamic. Misinformation often thrives on stoking fear, anger, and outrage. If a story makes you feel intense emotion, it's a signal to be extra cautious. Take a deep breath and engage your rational mind. Is the story trying to inform you, or is it trying to incite you? Understanding the techniques of propaganda, such as scapegoating, name-calling, and endless repetition, can help you identify them when they are being used on you. Ultimately, defending the truth is a shared responsibility. Support and subscribe to high-quality, independent journalism that invests in investigative reporting and fact-checking. When you see friends or family sharing misinformation, gently and respectfully point them towards reliable sources. Engage in local community discussions and advocate for media literacy education in schools. By becoming more active, critical, and engaged participants in our information ecosystem, we can push back against the tide of deception. It is not an easy task, but it is essential for the health of our minds, the integrity of our conversations, and the future of our democracy.